Hello, welcome to our video. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection attorney in Alabama. And the question we'll talk about today is if you were sued by an original creditor, maybe it's Capital One, Citibank, Chase, whoever it might be, and you resolve that case. So you pay them whatever you're supposed to pay them. And the case is dismissed with prejudice. What can you do with your credit reports? Because sometimes people say, well, if I've settled it, it ought to come off my credit report. Well, generally the answer to that is no. Not if we're talking about original creditor. But if you owe the original creditor zero, then your credit report should say that you owe the original creditor zero. So how do you make sure that happens? Because a lot of times they will not do that. So let's take an example. Capital One sues you for $5,000. The settlement is you pay them $3,000. Well, then your credit report should say that you owe them zero because truthfully you owe Capital One nothing anymore. They voluntarily accepted $3,000. They could have said you have to pay us $5. They could have said pay us $1. They just said pay us $3,000. You paid them $3,000. But a lot of times Capital One will leave it on your credit report showing that you currently owe $5,000. That's untrue. Because how much do you owe? You owe them zero. Or maybe Capital One will say, oh, well, we're going to be very generous. We'll update your credit report. We know you don't owe us $5,000. You just owe us $2,000. No, that's a lie as well. Remember, they said you owed $5,000, but they said pay us $3,000 and this will go away. And you paid them $3,000. So you owe them zero. Your credit report should say zero. So we like to give them some help. Because maybe they're just confused about this. Maybe they're too busy. You know, we sued one of these companies one time for some really bad stuff they did. This was their argument. They go, we file so many lawsuits in Alabama, you can't possibly expect us to keep up with them and to be accurate with what we do. I mean, come on. We file like so many, there's just too many to keep up with. And my response was, are you seriously going to make that argument in front of a federal court jury? Because that will be a sight to behold. But anyway, so let's help them out since they're so incompetent. So you settle your case, you get dismissed with prejudice, you owe them zero. Prepare a letter to the credit bureaus. And maybe you copy it to the creditor, Capital One, Citibank, whoever. Maybe you don't. It just depends. But in that letter to the credit bureaus, you say, look, I got sued. We resolved it. The case is dismissed with prejudice. I owe zero. I want you to update my credit report and show that I owe zero. And if you won't do it, explain to me in writing why you won't do this. And don't send me a form letter. Okay? Now, I'll just tell you this. The credit bureaus, they're only going to send you a form letter because they're just so arrogant that they think there's no need for them to ever give you a personal response. Now, they get mad if you send them what they perceive to be a form letter, but when they send you one back, they go, oh, well, that's totally different because we're the credit bureaus. You're just a consumer. And sometimes they will not fix your credit report. So even though it's pretty clear, you go, look, I got sued in this case. Here's a copy of it. You can go to the courthouse and look it up because whatever you send the credit bureaus, if you send them documents, they'll send you a letter back. Go, we can't trust any documents you send us. Now, if you don't send documents, they'll argue later, well, you should have sent us documents. So understand, whatever you do, the credit bureaus will take the opposite approach. So you say in there, look, I got sued, case is over, you can look all this up, I owe zero. And if the credit bureaus fix it, great, they did what they're supposed to. Hey, sometimes they actually do that. That's wonderful. But if they don't, then you sue the credit bureaus in federal court because they violated the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Because you gave them proof. You owe zero, but yet they go to Capital One or Citibank or whoever and say, I don't know, what do you think? Does this guy owe $5,000 or zero? And if Capital One or Citibank says, he owes $5,000, then the credit bureaus, they will only do what their customer, who's not you, their customer is Capital One or Citibank. That's what they will do. And that violates the law. So you sue them. Now you also sue Capital One or Citibank or whoever also did this false investigation, improper investigation. And then, at least when we're representing you, the deal is it's got to come off your credit report and they have to pay money damages. So if you're dealing with this, or maybe you're right in the middle of settling and you're wondering how will this impact your credit report, or maybe you've already settled, you've already disputed it, and these jokers won't take it off your credit report in terms of that $5,000 balance or $2,000 balance. They refuse to show it as a zero balance. And give us a call, 205-879-2447. That's 205-879-2447. Or you can reach us through our website, alabamaconsumer.com. We'll be glad to chat with you about your options, help you understand sort of the good and the bad of each option. And if we end up suing them, we'll walk you through that whole process. I have a whole series of articles, videos that walk you through the entire federal court process. So be glad to share that with you. So appreciate you watching this, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.